This was a model that AM Skeffington in the 1920s put on a napkin in a bar.
Great.
Very cool. So he actually talked about two streams of visual processing. There's the where is it and the what is it stream. And that he called identification, so identifying what the object is, and centering. Centering is where is it? We think of centering as the sensory motor output is convergence, divergence. The sensory motor output for identification is accommodation. Really interesting that that was back in the 20s, almost 100 years ago. He was talking about two streams of processing. And if you think about it, in the 70s, Hubel and Wiesel were talking about the brain and two different streams of processing, the magno and the parvocellular streams of visual processing, and that was what he had said 50 years before. And now, if we look, I mean, so much of what we're looking at is looking at those two streams of processing. It makes sense, you know, I mean, you have to figure out where something is and what something is. But very important, and almost a precursor to that, is what he called anti-gravity. And that is where am I? So you really can't determine where is it if you don't know where you are. So you have to have a strong, stable reference point. So that has to do with things like proprioception, balance, coordination, involves the cerebellar system. So it's amazing that he linked that. He was saying way back when, you can't have a visual system intact unless you've got anti-gravity. We're doing our favorite 4 circles.
I'm gonna hide over here.
That's fine. The last one is speech language. And this one's another one. We think about it, you know, how do I communicate about what I see? So that's a kind of communication. But it also involves visualization and interpreting and taking that information that's out there and encoding it in a way that is relatable and we can either talk about or connect with other people. So those 4 circles, he says this part where it's the combination of all of that information is what he calls is the emergent, and he says that's truly what vision is. So if you think about it, when you're thinking inside this kind of box, you're not thinking, oh, the eyeball is myopic, let me give it a minus lens. You're thinking, wow, there's all these parts. And so when we're prescribing, we're looking at prescribing to help that individual have a better sense of where they are, where things are, to help them identify things better and have them relate to the world better. So it's a totally different mindset in terms of, okay, what are we doing for this patient? And then when you're thinking about it from a therapeutic standpoint or in the therapy room, you know, what tools, lenses, prisms, whatever, can we use that's going to create, say, an awareness or a shift in posture, balance, how they're seeing, how much of the world they're seeing, the detail versus the periphery. So, I mean, again, you can think of it more in terms of this is your more ambient system, that's your more focal system. You know, here is, do they know where they